Good afternoon guys, Sam from Alarm Tech here to bring you another video. Today we're going to be looking at going through a wired expander and a power supply. So the power supply that we're looking at is actually one of Texecom's own. It's a 200 XP, and inside of this what you'll find is you'll have the control module, and then what you would then do is then have an expander, and there is also a slot for another expander to go here. I'll just talk through what is on this. So you'll have your mains input at the top, which is just standard, going through the transformer, connected through a 4-wire connector, which goes into the power supply. So this power supply will be powered. You can then have either 1 or 2 batteries wired in. There is a jumper down the bottom to say whether you've got 1 or 2 batteries. If you've only got 1, obviously pop the jumper over to where it says number 1, and then from that you'll need a ribbon cable. This cable will then connect to your first expander. So for your expander, it'll just be wired in like normally. The only exception is you would not put your positive into the network in, and alternatively, if you're using your network out, you would also not use your positive unless you are going to an unwired or unpowered expander. What I mean by that is if I was to have another expander here, I would use the positive going into the network in of my expander, because it's not like I'm getting its power from anywhere else. But because this is getting its power from the power supply, we do not put the positive in, because what's happening is from this network that's coming in, it's then going out into the one above it, which is also got powered, and that's why we don't use the positive. But if it isn't powered, then yes, we do use the positive. If you're putting any power supplies in, you need to make sure that you've got a common negative, and by that means we need to make sure we do use the negative, but just never the positive unless it is powered, not powered, sorry. So in the middle of the board we've got dip switches. This is just to signify what expander it is on the network. So for example, this has got no dip switches on, so it's meaning that this will be expander 1. With that, you can put dip switch 1 up. It doesn't make a difference from number 1, and then if I want to put number 2 up, that will make this expander 2, and then you'll need to confirm that on your devices. So with that, across the left of the board and the right of the board, we've got our zones. So the first zone, because it's doing it as double pole end of line, as you can see, it's got the first A and the last T, and that's how you wire in an end of line, which is using the resistors that we've discussed previously. In the middle of the block of 4, you will then have your positive and negative, which will be generally the positive and negative which you'll use for the left side, and then the positive and negative on this side you'll use for any zones wired in, so all your wires aren't crisscrossing over. At the bottom of the board you then have speaker output, and then you also have 8 programmable outputs, which you could program as a bell or a strobe, or anything really. So the expander is actually quite simple to use. As I said, all you would do is, using your alarm and tamper pair, pop it into the last A and pop it into the last T, and if you've done the resistors as end of line, or 2K2, 4K7 or 1K, 1K respectively, then that will pick up on the panel. So obviously, because this is expander 1 on network 2 technically, but if this was on your network 1, this first zone isn't obviously zone 1, this is actually zone 9, because there's 8 onboard zones on most of the alarm panels. So it'd actually be 9, 10, 11, 12, and then 13, 14, 15, 16, and then your next expander would actually be, zone 1 will be zone 17. So just because it's zone 1, it's only zone 1 on relation to the board, not obviously in relation to the whole alarm system once it's all built. What you'll then find is you've got a tamper disabled jumper here, which you can then pop on, and then it won't look for the tamper switch to be engaged or not. It's also got an engineer's keypad 4-pin connector, if you do have a keypad with the 4 wires being connected to it. And then in the middle we've just got a daisy or series, so we generally just leave them on the S for series. It doesn't really make that much difference, unless you're talking like big cable lengths or distances, that I've found anyway. You've got the standard heartbeats, so the indicators are usually flickering. If they are, that's fantastic. If the R was out, then it would mean that you're not receiving any data, but that will be evident through the rest of the systems. And that's just a quick look at the expanders. Any questions, pop down in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe.